starts in the stomach when cells grow out of control and outgrow normal cells. These cells can develop into a malignant tumor and cause the cancer to become metastatic, thus killing the person. Our machine represents how alcoholism can start the development of stomach cancer and how it further grows and affects the person's body biologically. The whole model shows how fast a person can die as a result of cancer and what the consequence of excessive alcohol intake can be. We took extra time out of studying to research more about the cancer process and the possible treatments. Let's see if we were successful.
3, 2, 1. Okay. The mechanism starts with tipping over the red solo cup. Inside the red solo cup, there are balls of various sizes. This represents the alcohol. As the balls are tipped from the cup, they collide with the dominoes, successively pushing them all down. The falling of the dominoes represents the advancing mutation of bad DNA that causes cancer. All of the dominoes fall, thus colliding with the marble in stage 2, starting the second stage.
The second stage represents the growth and development of cancer cells in the stomach. Cancer cells keep growing when they are supposed to die for many reasons. Firstly, they avoid the immune system, they avoid the stop signals given out by the body, and they are immature cells and therefore will never grow into mature cells. Cancer cells can grow blood vessels through the process called angiogenesis, which allows them to interact with other blood vessels more easily and travel to other organs. The blue paper that acts as a barrier on either side of the slope represents the healthy cells in the stomach, and the marble moving down the ramp represents the cancer cells invading them. The barriers on the inside of the ramp represent the antibodies released by the immune system, and the cancer cells moving through them shows that they have failed. The end of the ramp leads to the spread of the cancer cells.
My part represents the spreading stage of the cancer process. The barriers on the downward slope represents different layers of muscle tissues in the stomach, and the motion of the marble going down the slope represents cancer cells growing through those layers. The path that connects to the next stage represents the connective tissue in the stomach. As marble rolls along the path, it symbolizes the motion of the cancer cell traveling to different parts of the body through the blood vessels. The science I'm taking is physics, and it was used in many parts of the model. The marble was traveling down the slope because the force of gravity is bigger than the surface friction. The marble was changing its direction, which can be considered as acceleration when it hits the barrier that on the slope. According to Newton's second law of motion, an object will accelerate if there's an unbalanced force. In this case, the marble changes its direction due to the force of impact generated when hitting the barrier. The concept of momentum was also used in the model. Momentum is the quantity of motion that an object has, and it depends on the mass of the object and its velocity. In this model, the slope is tilted in an angle that's steep enough for the marble to travel in a relatively high velocity, which will provide a great amount of momentum that allows the marble to move smoothly to the next stage.
In stage 4, the tumor has grown, spread into other parts of the body, and reached to the lung. I used the chemical reaction of baking soda and vinegar to represent this stage. When vinegar and baking soda are first mixed together, hydrogen ions in the vinegar reacts with the sodium and bicarbonate ions in the baking soda. The carbonic acid formed as a result of the first reaction immediately begins to decompose into water and carbon dioxide gas. When previous stage leads the balloon lift up by the thread and the baking soda slides into the bottle that contains vinegar, it will produce gas and makes the movement towards next stage. The aerating balloon representing the cancer cell growing when they reach to the lung.
For my part in the Group 4 project, I was tasked with replicating the final stage of cancer development. The final stage is tumor burden, which causes the person to die from a lack of oxygen being able to reach the vital organs. To model this complex process using physics, I decided to design a system where energy was transferred from one object to the next. However, due to time constraints, This was simplified into a small ball knocking down a domino. The final element, the falling domino, would represent the death of the person. While at rest at the top of the ramp, the velocity of the ball is 0 meters a second. The acceleration of the ball is 0 meters a second squared, and the displacement of the ball is 0 meters downhill. However, once the surface that the ball is resting on is lifted by the balloon, the force of the gravity is split into two forces. One is perpendicular to the surface, and one is parallel to the surface. The perpendicular force is balanced by the normal force. However, if the parallel force is unbalanced by friction, the ball will accelerate down the incline. Once at the bottom of the hill, the ball strikes the domino. The force that it impacts the domino with can be calculated using the formula F net equals ma, where m is mass and a is acceleration. The domino falls and the Cancer cycle model comes to an end.